You made it to level 2, deeper questions leading to deeper answers. I'm Tomas Garza, and I'm here to help you decide to transform. I'll be setting the pace for the process to support your unfolding. Learn and commit to a practice that brings simplicity and then awareness of what is ready to be released. Join me now and allow the experience of a deeper sense of love. Hello and welcome everyone to Decide to Transform. I am your host, Tomas Garza, and joining me for a special encore appearance today is Marybeth Haines. Marybeth, as you'll remember, had a really wonderful show a few weeks ago called Guardian Animals of Lightness, and I will read her bio in just a moment here for you. But Marybeth is back to take a deeper dive into the human relationship, interrelationship with animals. Marybeth Haines' passion lies in making a difference in teamwork with animals and their gifts to humanity. She advocates on behalf of the language they speak. Since 2012, she's been working professionally with animals and the humans who love them. Marybeth has been recognized as a highly regarded author, animal communicator, pet bereavement specialist, ordained minister, and speaker. In addition, she has published 3 books on helping adults and children in healing from the death of a beloved pet. Animals communicate with us in many ways, and always with love. And it has been Marybeth's intention to help others in the healing that is needed after a loved one has passed away. Marybeth is very excited to connect with you and looks forward to sharing with you all the many gifts animals have to share as our teachers, guides, and so much more. Please welcome Marybeth Haines, the gal who speaks with animals. It's a pleasure to have you back. Thank you for joining me.
I am so excited to be here, Tomas. Thank you so much for having me back on Decide to Transform. I just love our time together.
I do too, and this was really, really fun. So listeners, go back a few weeks and listen to Marybeth's first appearance. Guardian Animals of Lightness is the title of the show, and I really had a great time on this. I was excited, I have to tell you, when you sent me a message and said, let's take a deeper dive into this.
Yeah, it's interesting. It just kind of, I love how the inspired moments come, and I just felt the inspiration, like, you know what, let's take this deeper, because there's so much that we have with the human animal bond, how we share life together. And there's so many things when we think about us as humans, right? We are spiritual beings having a human experience. Mm-hmm. And when we look at animals, they are spiritual beings as well, having an animal experience. And there's so many things that we can do to help each other. And in communications with animals, they have shared experiences with me as well, which is what we're going to talk about today. Mm-hmm. On, as we deeper dive into this. How, I think the last time we talked together, we talked a lot about how animals help us and how they're wise, their wisdom, their guidance. There's so much that they do for us. Mm-hmm. And we also have a lot that we do for them. And so maybe sharing some of those experiences today of some deeper, more profound experiences that animals have reached out to ask for help in, mm-hmm. Could be something that we could share.
Yes, and I love this idea because, as you said, we spent some time talking about how there are really no separations. There is no separation at all, right, in truth, between human beings and animals. And we spent a lot of time on how animals helped people. So yes, I think this is a wonderful idea. Let's talk about what we as human beings can then do for them, because that's another really critical component of an interrelationship where there is no separation at all. Mm-hmm. Let's talk about this. Now, I know that you have a few of these in mind. So where would you like to start?
As soon as you asked that, I have a particular animal that because I have several stories I can share, and I have several stories that I'm prepared to share today. But as soon as you asked me that, this particular animal on one of those stories has popped through. So I'm going to go with her, because this is a really wonderful outcome to something that started out being pretty scary. So there was this beautiful cat, and she lives in this wonderful space. Her humans have this beautiful property. It's an oasis of bliss.
Okay.
It's just absolutely gorgeous. And in the backyard, there's lots of space and places to hide and play. And then behind the house is actually a wooded area. So there's forest in the back. And one day, not long ago, I think this was last year, this cat is an indoor-outdoor cat, and she actually got attacked by an animal, and it was really serious. She was at the point where she wasn't sure if she wanted to continue living or not. She ended up getting infection, and she needed to have her leg amputated from the attack. And so when she came home, she was learning life now with 3 legs. And even though she still saw herself, she told me she still saw herself as whole and complete. There was nothing wrong with that. She didn't realize that, I have 3 legs now instead of 4. To her, everything was still as normal. She just needed to learn how to move through life with having to walk a little different now, having to not be able to jump up on things the same. And so it was at the point where she, even her humans were so worried about her, is she going to make it? Is this going to be helpful for her? Is her quality of life going to be okay? When she came home from the hospital, she decided that, this is my life. I'm moving forward. She got better. She started going back outside, and she started going back to what she used to do. And that was go out and venture, go out and travel around, and go out into the woods. And so her mom, her human, I like to refer to us as their humans. We belong to them. So her mom reached out to me and said, she's going out a lot, and she's venturing out further, and I just don't think she understands that there's a possibility that she could be getting attacked again, because there's fox, there's coyote, there are a lot of different animals that could view her as prey. So we had a chat with her, and I mentioned to her about what had happened with her leg, and she didn't want to talk about it. She said, that's not who I am. I'm still who I am, and that hasn't changed who I am. And I said, well, that's wonderful. I'm really glad to hear that. And they said, can you tell me why you like to go out into the woods? I mean, you have this beautiful oasis of bliss behind you. You have all these spaces in this land. Why do you want to go to the woods? And she said, well, I like to have that time to myself. And she likes to there's mice and there's different animals, and when she goes out there, she feels like she can be on alert and kind of look around and play and run after things and things like that. And I said to her, well, I can completely understand that. I mean, I'd want that too. And I said, I just wanted to ask you, do you know that there is danger that's out in the woods? And she goes, what are you talking about, danger? She said, this is my space. And I said, yeah, it is your space, but did you know that there's also space out there for other animals as well? And she said, no, I didn't. Like she literally was like in this curious voice. I could hear her back saying, well, no, I mean, I thought this was just my space to go out and do all these things. So I shared with her, I said, I know you don't want to talk about this, but do you remember what happened when you got attacked by an animal? And she said, yes. And I said, do you know that now, especially, with having 3 legs and still healing from that experience, that there are some animals out there that could view you as their prey. And
Yeah.
she said, no, like she was completely flabbergasted. So I brought, like, her mom was there, and I brought her in and I said, you know, Mom, what type of animals are out there? And so Mom mentioned coyote and fox and things like that. And she said, oh my gosh, the kitty said, like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize that I was putting myself in harm. So
Okay.
I said, what's most important to you about going out there? And this kitty said, well, I like to have my own space, because there's other cats at this house as well. And
Mm-hmm.
this particular kitty really wanted her own space, that time to have her own private area, to play, to go out and hunt and do all those things. So we came to an agreement that if she stayed away from the woods, that her mom would create this space on the land where she would stay safe.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
And Mom was very open to doing this. And through the 3 of us together, we had a conversation of what's important to this beautiful kitty. And her mom created that. And guess who didn't go out into the woods anymore?
Ah, yes. The kitty.
So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. So sometimes animals will do things without realizing what is really behind it. I mean, this
Mm-hmm.
beautiful kitty wanted to go out and get her space. She wanted to go out and hunt. She wanted to go out and have that time to do that, and
Yeah.
didn't realize the dangers that were behind it.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. Well, and you know what strikes me when you're telling this story of this kitty is that human beings do the exact same thing. I thought of
Oh,
many
absolutely.
people when you and the cat were conversing, and the kitty said, "Oh well, I didn't realize that there was space for other animals." I thought immediately of a lot of human beings that I've met in this lifetime, and people that I haven't met who are aghast that other people have space too. Animals have space too. So
Yeah.
that
Yes.
really struck me as that's directly analogous. So they're having a very, in fact, it's not similar. It's the same
Yeah,
kind of experience. Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah, it really is. And so, you know, I know that listeners are curious here when you're conversing with them, what does that look like in practice when you're having this conversation, say for example with this cat?
Right. So for me, so for the first session I had with this cat, it was in person. So I
Okay.
actually was able to talk to her like in the same
Yeah.
room. The
Yeah.
second conversation where we talked about the woods and kind of the dangers of there and kind of setting up that new space for her based on what she wanted, that was over the phone.
Mm.
So how it kind of looks like is I work really well with pictures. And so if I'm not in the presence of the animal in the same room, if I can have a picture of that animal, I really have that connection even stronger. Now the picture doesn't need to be there, but pictures work really well with me.
Okay.
And because you and I are conversing right now, and what we're doing is we're speaking back and forth and we're having a conversation. And essentially, we're exchanging energy.
Hmm.
So when I talk, I'm sharing an energy with you in the form of words and a language that we both understand. And in response, you are doing the same, right?
Yes.
And so when I talk with the animals and when I talk with this kitty, I'm talking in the exact same way. I'm having a
Hmm. Hmm.
conversation with her. But instead of hearing her where I can hear you with my physical ears, I hear her with my spiritual ears, my intuitive ears.
Yeah.
I see images from her. She sends me the energy of images, words, thoughts, pictures, and I actually hear her in my, I guess we could say in my head, so to speak, like I'm
Right.
hearing you talk with me right
Hmm.
now.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. I think that's something that that people will relate to, especially those that have animals. And even for our listeners that don't, this is something that honestly is innate to all of us. And
Yes.
you mentioned on our previous show, on your previous appearance, when you started to become aware of this when you were younger, and now it is a full-blown not only passion, but it is your career, in fact. And
Yes.
another thing that struck me when you were relating this story is that you're a mediator of sorts, aren't you, between people's animals and the animals' humans, sounds like.
Exactly, exactly. Like a lot of people will say, thank you so much for what you've done. And my answer
Hmm.
always is, you're welcome. But do you know what? It was that the work there really was you and your animal. I was just, I'm the vehicle, the vessel that's
Hmm.
helping to bring this energy to between the both of you. So yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, it brings me great joy to be able to do that.
I love that. Yeah, and that just struck me. The word mediator came to my mind in particular because I spent 13 years as a mediator. I
Ah,
recognize that role, and it is entirely possible to have animals, cats, dogs, other kinds of animals as parties to the conversation. No
absolutely.
question about it. I love it. Okay. Well, and you mentioned, Mary Beth, that you have other stories of how human beings can step in, how they can help animals from your own experience. And I know I'd love to
Hmm.
hear more.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So remembering that animals are here to learn just like we are.
Hmm.
They're here to evolve. They're here to do so much just like we. So again, looking at us as one, we may have different physiological needs. We may be different species, but we are all the same. We are all one. And so I'm wondering if any of your listeners have had anything in their house that perhaps they've heard that have gone bump in the night, or
Uh,
had any kind of supernatural things happening in their house. I have a story to share that can speak to this. So I was called into a situation where there was this beautiful dog. She is just such a gift to this world. And she was having some behavioral issues. So every time dad would leave the house, dad would come back home and this dog would have gone to the washroom in the house.
uh, okay.
This dog doesn't do that normally. And so she understands that you go to the washroom outside, but she kept pooping in the house every single
Mm.
time dad would
Hmm.
leave. So mom and dad called me in, what's going on here? She knows that, we tell her when we leave, we're only gone for this amount of time, or we're coming back, is it anxiety? Is she like, what's happening here? Because she's really, it's becoming a real big behavior. And
Hmm.
so a lot of times we could think, well, the dog needs training, or the dog needs, to learn not to do that, when really every behavior that an animal does is a communication. There is a
Hmm. Hmm.
message behind it.
Right.
And I'm so glad that mom and dad called me in, because when they did, we found out exactly why this dog was doing this behavior, why she was pooping in the house.
Hmm.
So as soon as I connected with her on this, she brought forward this space that was in the house. And to me, it looked like something specific. And I just want to keep anonymity here. I do have permission to share this story, but I want to keep
Okay.
anonymity here. So without
Sure,
going
sure.
into specifics,
Hmm.
there was a specific space in the house that the dog brought me to. So I kind of shared what I saw in my mind to mom and dad. And I said, because this was done, I wasn't in person with them during this time. So this was done over a Zoom session.
Hmm.
And so I said what this dog was showing me, and they said, that's this space here. So they brought the camera over and they showed me that's what I had explained from what the dog told me. And I said, there's something there that's causing anxiety. And it turned out that that space was a portal.
Oh.
And the portal was opened.
Mm.
And what happened was there was a 7-year-old little boy spirit. And what happened here, it moved from communication from the dog to this little boy spirit coming through. And the little boy said that he was walking with his mom. He remembers a big bang. He remembers feeling like he was flying forward, and then he couldn't find his mom after that. And he said that he saw, as he was trying to find his mom, because he wanted to find her and he couldn't find her, as he was looking for her, he saw a light, and he went to this light and opened the door, and that was the portal into this home.
Oh, okay.
So he said that it looked like it was a loving place, and so he didn't know where to go, so he went in through this door, and he ended up in the home. This dog in the home was a dog that he used to have.
Oh, okay.
He really liked her. He was very attracted to her. He wanted to play with her. He told me he even pulled her tail a few times. So no wonder this dog is like trying to say, listen, this, because I'm anxious here. I don't know why this little boy keeps pulling my tail, and why every time you leave the house, he's here so strong.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was quite a profound experience. And so what happened was, I learned something from one of my mentors named Val Hart, and she taught me something about the Angel Squadron. The
Okay.
Angel Squadron is a collective energy of angels, angelic beings that come and help souls that are lost. And they help bring them to where they belong. I called upon the Angel Squadron and I asked if they could come and help. And the little boy was a little fearful because he didn't know exactly what to expect. And so they came and they gave him a symbol. If I remember correctly, it was a key with a blue ribbon. For some reason, he was able to respond to that and say, okay, I feel safe.
Okay.
They went and got his mom. They brought his mom to this little boy. The mom and little boy got reunited. The feeling of happiness, completion, I had tears in my eyes, even though it wasn't me. It was like the empathic part of that reunion, because they had gotten separated. And they were both taken up to the light, up to heaven, up to wherever it is that resonates with you. They were taken home together. They were reunited. And then the Angel Squadron closed the portal because it was an entry portal. It wasn't an exit portal. And without getting into deep, this is a whole other topic, but if there's an entry exit portal, if anybody's come through that portal and that portal gets closed, they're not going to be able to get back. And so this was only an entry portal. So they did close it, and it's closed at the request of the mom and dad of the house, because they would prefer not to have that happen again.
Okay.
And so going back to this beautiful dog, she was very calm after that. She said how much better she felt. She was trying to tell her mom and dad so badly that this little boy was causing her so much anxiety, and she didn't quite understand it. And that's why she kept pooping in the house.
Okay.
So at the end of our session, I said to mom and dad, I'd really be interested to hearing how their dog is doing.
Yeah.
Can you let me know? The very next day, I got a message. Dad left the house, no poop. She was on the couch. She was sleeping soundly. There was no anxiety. And this was the reason why she was doing that. So something that could be looked at as a behavior, she's pooping in the house. We got to train her to stop. We need to, give her a consequence. She's not supposed to do that. Could be a way to look at it normally, but that wasn't the case. And so the story I share as an invitation to look at, if your animal is doing a behavior, what really is behind it?
Yes. Okay.
because they're doing it for a reason. And this is
Hmm.
this is a deeper experience. It doesn't mean there's a ghost in your house, and it doesn't mean that there's all this. This was just one particular example. But when there's
Sure.
a behavior, it is a form of communication, and there's a reason why it's happening. And I invite everyone to remember that when their animal is exhibiting some behaviors.
Yeah, yeah. It's a really good question for people to have in mind. And how long did this go on where the dog was distressed and anxious and pooping in the house before these folks called you?
That's a good question. I don't know specifically how long, but I know that it was happening enough that they
Hmm.
knew that, you know what, maybe we better find out, because they're really wonderful parents to her. Like I said, this dog is such a beautiful dog, and they're such a beautiful family together, and they knew enough that, you know what, let's find out what's happening here. This has to be more than just a behavior. And that's what they did. So long answer to your question was that. Short answer to your question was,
Yeah.
I don't know for sure how long, but it was long enough that it was becoming a real problem.
Okay, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I can imagine the family being distressed if the dog
Mm-hmm.
had been relatively normal before, and then this began to occur. Yeah, I can imagine the surprise. They must have tried a number of different things.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah, and it wasn't just the pooping, it was the anxiousness of the dog and all of
right.
that, right? And so they did everything that they could, and then when we were able to all work together and find out from her what was going on, and to
Mhm.
find out that what it was all along, and now she's calmer and no more
Right.
pooping and all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, and the little boy actually was in the dog's family prior. That's a very, very interesting type of situation. Do you see that often?
So the little boy had a dog like this dog.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. The little boy said, like, I that he had a dog when he was here on Earth that reminded him of this
Oh, I
particular
see.
dog.
Gotcha.
That's what it was. Yeah. And so
Ah,
he was really
yes.
attracted to her, and
Hmm.
he really wanted to play with her, and that's why
Yeah.
he'd pull her tail. And he did this
Yeah.
most when mom and dad were out of the house.
Ah, I see. Hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, so there's so much there, and I think that it's really an important message for people to go a little bit deeper than the behavior for
Yeah.
animals as well as for humans. If a child is acting out, there's a reason why. If an adult
Absolutely.
is acting out, there's absolutely a reason why. And most definitely, and same with a dog, same with a cat. Yeah, so I love this. I know that people are really going to be interested in listening to all of these stories, and we do most certainly have time for more. You do have more, right?
Wonderful. I do.
Yeah.
Oh, I've got tons.
Well, all
So
right.
yeah,
Well,
yeah.
I'd love to hear another if you
Okay.
have one. Thank you. Yeah.
Oh, you're so welcome. So there was a cat that I was able to commune with, and this kitty, very, very, very sweet, very gentle, very
Mhm.
loving, very quiet in her energy. And her mom and dad reached out because they wanted to kind of know how they could help her. There was a lot of changes happening. This kitty was really close with dad, really close with mom too, but dad had to go back to work, and there was a lot of changes. Dad was working long hours, so there was
Mhm.
some changes
Mhm.
that they were noticing in this sweet kitty. And so when I started talking with the kitty, she was sharing with me how she felt like her feet weren't touching the ground. And she showed me a picture of how she felt like she was living life above the ground. So, and it brought
Hmm.
me a feeling of, I don't feel like I'm connected to the earth. I feel like I'm up here.
Mm.
And that's part of the reason why I'm this way. And so it felt like I needed more. When I say I mean the animal. It felt like I needed more, more assistance and support with feeling that my feet are on the ground, so that I could feel safe, so that I could feel calmer, so that I could kind of come back to balance again.
Okay. Right.
And so we worked more, and I was talking with mom during this time, and mom was so open and accepting of, what can I do to help her? And dad was at work at the time. So I just had the call between the kitty and the mom and myself. And so mom was like, absolutely, whatever we need to do to help her. So I connected, and things went really, really deep. And what I mean by that is there's surface level communication, I call, and that's where the animal shares information and messages and, what they want to tell their humans and all that kind of stuff. And then we can go deeper, and we can go deeper into past life experiences, what they've brought forward from past life to present, things that are needing healing in that way. And this beautiful kitty brought me to that opportunity to go deeper. And so what happened was, it came out that 15 lifetimes in succession of one another, things happened to this particular kitty in whatever form she was in. So it doesn't mean she was a cat for 15 lifetimes, but whatever life she experienced.
Yeah.
And as she brought it into this present lifetime, one of the things that was deeply instilled into her DNA, into the cellular level, she said she could feel it in her cells, was fear. And she didn't understand why. There was a few things that she said. She said there was fear, there was anger, and it felt like it was poison inside her cells.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
So we thought, okay, let's work with this. This is something that has come forward for a reason. And so we went back into those 15 lifetimes. We connected with the Akashic Records, which is that wonderful library that holds all of the experiences of all our lives.
Yes. Uh-huh.
And I heard from some guidance that this kitty, should she wish to do this deeper healing, which she did, it took a lot of courage for her to do that, was to choose an object that she wishes to encase. So there was anger, that feeling of poison, and fear was the root of it all.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
So the kitty could choose whatever object she was that she wanted to encase this in. And so she chose a particular object. And when I mentioned the object to mom totally understood, because this was an object that dad could resonate with very, very strongly.
Oh, all right.
And remember how I talked about the connection between the kitty and dad?
Yes.
So she used this particular object. And all of these 15 lifetimes, and that root of that fear and the anger and all that got encased in this particular object. And then it was brought to what they shared with me as called to be placed into the cave of lightness.
Oh, okay.
Interesting, isn't it?
Yes.
So it got encased in this particular object that the kitty chose. Then the kitty placed it into the cave of lightness. And then the cave of lightness took over and was able to bring all of that to that healing place. And I'm not kidding, this kitty, from being above ground, her feet slowly came down and touched the ground, energetically speaking.
Sure.
And she was back on the ground.
All right.
So I also asked mom, I said, I'd be very interested to hear how she's doing from here. Would you keep me posted? And within the week, mom got back to me and said that they've noticed that she seems to be calmer. There's more of an understanding now. She's better with dad being at work. Obviously, there's still they're still learning and they're still growing. But that particular fear, that root issue that this particular kitty brought into the learning of this particular lifetime was able to be released, was able to be transformed into the cave of lightness, so that what she brought from 15 lifetimes into this current life she could now move forward in this life.
Yes.
So
yes.
does that make sense, what I've shared? Because I know I've been talking a lot. I just want to make sure that.
Yes, it does. And I thank you very much for sharing that. There's so much there. It's a powerful story. In fact, all three of them that you've shared today have been powerful stories. And I love, it sticks with me, the cave of lightness.
The cave of lightness. Yeah.
I love that. It just reminds me of the image of turning on a light in the dark room and suddenly it's no longer dark.
Absolutely. I you know what? I haven't looked at it that way. I love that. Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Well, and this operates on so many different levels. I know that listeners can relate to this because there's literal physics. You turn on a light switch, and if the power's on and the bulb is good, boom, you have light. It's no longer dark. And it also happens spiritually, energetically, everything being a metaphor for the ultimate transformation. So that's a really, really a wonderful story, and what a relief for that cat. 15 lifetimes.
Yes.
Now, did you go on to find out any specifics about what actually transpired during those 15 lifetimes?
There was a bit that we were able to go into, as far as, so when I'm in session, I ask, because I work with the guardian animals of lightness, and I also have the teams that are there to assist with the animal communication, spiritually speaking as well. I ask for their guidance, and so they were able to help bring through what was needed for that particular session. So some did come through from part of that, and a lot of it had that fear aspect. So there was so many experiences with the fear, but we didn't go into each particular lifetime. It was more of what needed to come through for that particular session, so that healing could transpire.
All right. It was a thread, and all of the lifetimes contained that.
It's like peeling the layer of an onion, right? There's so many, and yeah.
A classic. And when you get to the appropriate layer, what always strikes me is how quickly healing can rush in. It's like it's been there the entire time, and it's simply waiting for that layer to be peeled off. So,
Absolutely. And Tomas, it's interesting because this particular kitty, so sweet and loving and gentle energy and just amazing, feeling like her feet weren't on the ground. And to go through what she did and what she was open to do, it took a lot of courage for her to release this, because a lot of times we want to release it. It doesn't feel good, but it's been part of us for so long that it's kind of like, how am I going to be without it? This is who I found out who I am, right? So it takes courage to release this baggage. Animals are different because they are, they're so much more wise with this. They're ready to let go of stuff. We as humans tend to want to hold on to it for some strange reason, even though we don't want it anymore. But what the animals have taught through these experiences, and what this particular kitty taught me, is that it doesn't have to be, I don't want to say hard. It takes courage to do this, but to be able to have an opportunity to take the fear, which was the root that we were able to come up to receive as what she was bringing forward from these past 15 lifetimes, to place it in this object that she chose, and to place it into the cave of lightness. You would think that there would be much harder steps.
Yes.
Our human minds would create a harder process, right?
Oh, yeah.
And so for this kitty to be open to doing this and to release that and place it in something that she could resonate with, that particular object, to place it into the cave of lightness and to trust that it was going to be taken care of.
Yes.
And then within an hour, hour and a half, her feet were back balanced on the ground.
Yeah.
And a lot of times we think that it's going to take months and months of healing, and we need to do this and that, and it's going to be hard, and it's going to be emotional and all this stuff, when sometimes it doesn't have to be. I'm not saying it never has to be, but does that make sense?
Well, it does. It makes total sense, because when somebody's actually really ready, and I mean really ready to release, then it's actually quite easy. But the buildup,
that's right,
could be 15 lifetimes worth, for sure.
Exactly. Wow. You said it perfectly.
The buildup could be a long time coming, and this really leads to a question, Marybeth, that I have for you. And this is powerful and profound work, and you've shared with us 3 examples of how you have gone in and communicated with animals, and then you've helped their humans to better their situation. So it really works both ways. They help us, we help them. And how can people that are curious to learn more information about you, your services, and your process get a hold of you so they can take a deeper dive with you and ask you further questions?
Sure. I love it when people reach out, and if there's any questions that they have, or there's something going on with them and the animals in their life, they are welcome to reach me at any time. So the best way is to go to thegalspeaks.com.
Okay.
And reach out to me there. I am on Facebook under The Gal Speaks, which if they're on Facebook, they can reach me there.
Okay.
And I welcome connection. I mean, this is what it's all about. We are all one. And when animals, it's the animals that have brought us together. You and I, Tomas, would not have been talking about this. We would not be doing a second podcast on this subject if it wasn't for animals. True. And I thank them for bringing us together. So
yeah, me too.
For everybody that's out there, if you wish to reach out, or if there's anything I can support you with, please do reach out. You can email me to thegalspeaks@gmail.com. Very simple. Galspeaks.com, Facebook @thegalspeaks, and thegalspeaks@gmail.com.
Yes, and the gal, GAL, at the Marybeth at thegalspeaks.com. Well, it's thegalspeaks@gmail.com, excuse me. And the website is thegalspeaks.com. All right. Well, this is really wonderful. I've very much enjoyed both of our shows. And I really thank you for taking the time to come and for suggesting that we do a deeper dive. I think this is something that really, really is going to resonate with a lot of people. And before we wrap up, Marybeth, anything else that you would like to share with our listeners, whether they have animals in their life or not? Anything else that you'd like to add?
So thank you for being here. First of all, I'd like to say to everyone, thank you for being open to this opportunity of connection with other sentient beings that we share life with. And just an invitation to think about the animals in your life, even the animals in nature. So you may not have an animal that's in your family. You may have a friend or a family member that has an animal, or you may even, when you're outside, you may see the deer, or you may see the birds or the squirrels, or whatever it is. No matter what you're experiencing in life, there's an animal there that can help you with that. They're often mirrors to you, to be able to do that. And there's ways that you can help animals as well. And so I just send that out with love, and just really, really great to have you here and being a part of this podcast. And so just lots of hugs to everyone.
Right. I love that. And yes, lots of hugs from Marybeth and from me. And I really thank and appreciate all of you for listening. Marybeth, again, this has been a real pleasure. It's so much fun to share this time with you. Thank you so much again for joining me today.
Thank you so much, Tomas. I've had a great time once again.
This is wonderful. All right. And this is Marybeth Haines here on Decide to Transform. Again, check out Marybeth's website, thegalspeaks.com. And we will see you next time here on Decide to Transform. Everybody have a great day.